the experience that I'm going to talk about is I'm actually the convener of the Coalition of Activist Lesbians. We're a United Nations human rights lobby group, so my experience actually goes back about 15 years working with this, and I've also been a women's refuge worker. One of the issues for lesbians, I think, is that we're often not counted in with women. We're seen as different because we're lesbian and not heterosexual. But the other thing is, when we talk about same-sex relationship, the experience of women is very different from the experience of men, and so I find that that actually covers up a whole range of stuff that happens for lesbians as well. And so, for example, one of the ways that gets covered up is that the women's refuge movement's been running training and providing services for lesbians experiencing domestic violence for 25 years, but that doesn't actually get incorporated. So when lesbians are actually working for lesbians, it often gets invisibilised within the whole sort of queer context. So just to say that just because it doesn't get spoken about doesn't mean that it hasn't been happening. When we're talking about services for same-sex relationships, then we're talking about services for gay men and for lesbians. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a very different history there for lesbians alone within domestic violence. So the experience for lesbians, when lesbians experience violence, it's different than for heterosexual women and it's different than for gay men. Now the way it differs than for heterosexual women is that lesbians are raised in a society that actually assumes that they're heterosexual in the first place. So most lesbians have actually been in heterosexual relationships. And most of the lesbians who come to me wanting support around domestic violence are actually talking about the domestic violence that is from their ex-partner. And often men find it very difficult to accept their partner entering into a lesbian relationship. Many women don't discover their sexuality until they're in their 20s, 30s, sometimes their 50s and 60s, and it is violence from their ex-male partners that they mostly come to me for support around. When you look at the experience of lesbian domestic violence from their lesbian partners, the thing that I can't help but notice, and that is I work 2 days a week with lesbians and 2 days a week with the general community, which is mostly supporting women experiencing domestic violence, is the sorts of violence that they talk about is very different. When women are talking to me about the violence that they're escaping from men, the idea of the hand around the throat, all of that stuff is very common. I hear it lots. The sorts of violence I hear lesbians talk about from their lesbian partners is much more about yelling, pushing, door slamming, threats of outing. So I think again, like that threats of outing stuff is fairly important to think about as well.